AEW pay-per-view of the year. We head into 2025. Some big happenings on this show. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. I very much appreciate your viewership and support. Now, let's get into the recap. We have a lot to discuss. Another long show, but not quite as long as usual. I'm actually getting started here before midnight. That's nice. Let's talk about the matches. We had our usual buy-in, kickoff. We had 3 kickoff matches. Toni Storm defeated Lila Gray. Toni Storm has amnesia. This was her so-called first pay-per-view match. She picked up the win. Then there was a confrontation backstage with Deonna Purrazzo. That set up a match for next week's Collision. Then we had Jeff Jarrett versus the Big Doom, QT Marshall. Jeff Jarrett got the win here. He picked up the victory with the stroke. And then backstage, Jeff Jarrett revealed that this coming Wednesday on Dynamite, he will have a big announcement. So is this the retirement of Jeff Jarrett? I guess we'll find out this coming Wednesday on Dynamite. And then in the final match, Lio Rush, Action Andretti, and the Murder Machines picked up a win over the Outrunners and Top Flight. I'm a little surprised the Outrunners lost. They're doing a bit well in AEW, but they did lose here. I'm also surprised that Lance Archer and Brian Cage won. They usually don't win too often. So there you go. There was some miscommunication with the bad guys, but it worked out for them. Lio Rush tagged himself in, picked up the win with the Frog Splash. And then after the match was over, Private Party, the tag team champions, remember them as champions, they came out there and had a little face-off with Lio Rush and Action Andretti. There you go. The tag team champions are still around. Now, let's get to the main card. Chat room, leave your thoughts. If you're watching this on Facebook or X, head over to nodq.com/YouTube. That'll take you right over to the NoDQ YouTube page, and you can join the chat room. I put up some of the comments on the screen. Let's discuss the main card. We kicked off the main card with Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher in the Continental Classic semi-final match. Great match here to start off the show. Now, early on, Ospreay was on the outside. He got launched like a lawn dart into the barricade, and he was busted open badly. He was gushing blood. Kyle Fletcher took advantage of this. Kyle Fletcher was starting the fans, and then he took the blood that was on his boot, and he licked the blood. Crowd chanted, "You sick F." These guys love to do these spots with the blood. Despite gushing the blood, Ospreay was able to stay in the fight. They were countering each other's moves, and then they both ended up down. The crowd was chanting AEW. They even traded headbutts. There was some blood on Fletcher's head from Ospreay. Fletcher tried to cheat. Referee stopped him. Ospreay hit a hidden blade. Fletcher was able to kick out, and then Fletcher regained the upper hand with a brainbuster to Ospreay. Then he tried to finish off Ospreay, but Ospreay was able to counter it, and then picked up the win with the Styles Clash. Ospreay gets his revenge on Kyle Fletcher. Really strong opener to start off the show. I enjoyed it. Ospreay did a good job with the blood and everything, somehow managing to pull off a win. And then backstage, he cut a little promo. He dropped an F-bomb. He was hyped up despite the injury. Next up, we had Okada versus Ricochet in the other semi-final match. Not quite as good as the first match, but still pretty solid. Ricochet embracing the new heel character. He was taunting the crowd. The crowd was chanting baldy at him. They were singing the hey, 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 goodbye song, but saying you're bald instead of goodbye at Ricochet. Another competitive match here between these two. Ricochet did counter the Rainmaker, and then came off the top with the Shooting Star Press. Okada kicked out of that. And then Okada avoided the Spirit Gun. Okada built up some momentum, and finally was able to pin Ricochet with the Rainmaker Lariat. So it was Okada versus Ospreay, confirmed for the main event. Ricochet loses here, and he was not done with his humiliation, because Swerve Strickland showed up, and Swerve had Prince Nana bring a wagon with toilet paper down to the ring. He was handing toilet paper to the fans, and then on the count of 3, all of the fans around ringside threw the toilet paper at Ricochet. It is what it is. People were saying Ricochet's getting buried, but hey, it's entertaining at least. Ricochet being this cocky heel, maybe it'll amount to something at some point. Who knows? Man, remember during the start of the pandemic when nobody could get toilet paper, and now we're just throwing it around the ring? Times have definitely changed. We're back in good times when toilet paper can be wasted. I remember going to the grocery stores, and you were lucky if you could find one roll of toilet paper. We had our AEW Women's Title match, Tijuana Street Fight between Mariah May and Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa's dad was at ringside. Mariah May was taunting her during her entrance. Thunder Rosa went right after her. They were brawling over by the stage. They fought by the tunnel. The tunnel had a board set up that was blocking the tunnel for whatever reason. I guess it was a prop. Well, Mariah May got speared through the board. Then they returned to the ring. Thunder Rosa had a piñata, and inside the piñata were thumbtacks. But unfortunately for her, Mariah May was able to deliver the first move of the thumbtacks. She gave Thunder Rosa the Mayday onto the tacks, and then Mariah wrapped the barbed wire around her knee. She tried to attack Rosa, but Rosa was able to avoid it. Mariah hit the steel steps, and then Rosa took her father's cane, used it as a weapon. She had her chain. She also choked Mariah with the chain. And then, just as it was looking bad for the champion, Mariah May had this graveyard dirt, and she blinded Rosa with the dirt, and then gave her a power driver off the apron through a table, and got the 1-2-3 victory. Solid match here. I wouldn't say it was a classic or anything, but it was a good, entertaining match. Predictable. Did not think Thunder Rosa really had any chance of winning. Mariah May picks up another win to keep her momentum going as champion. I really don't see her losing it until Toni Storm faces her in Australia, which is what I'm predicting at this point. Next up, we had MJF versus Adam Cole, the Dynamite Diamond Ring. As I've talked about on my weekly streams, I'm over the feud. Did not really care about it going in. They had a good match. MJF was pretty entertaining. He was yelling, "Shut the F up" at the fans. The thing I really didn't like about this match is they were really making a big deal out of Ospreay getting busted open, the blood having that be a big part of the story. Then they just go ahead and not only have Adam Cole bleeding, but then MJF gets busted open as well. So they're both bleeding, and Adam Cole is in trouble for a while. MJF tried to go for a Panama Sunrise, but he got caught with a super kick. Then Cole's momentum got cut short. Adam Cole, his ankle was hurting. MJF targeted the ankle, and then Cole was able to send MJF headfirst into the post. MJF had been busted open at this point. Then they got back in the ring. It continued to go back and forth. MJF put on the figure 4 leg lock. Cole reversed it, and MJF went to the outside and acted like the Kingdom had attacked him. The Kingdom were at ringside. Referee, of course, believed the scumbag MJF. Kingdom gets kicked out. MJF then grabbed his Dynamite Diamond ring, but Cole countered him with a super kick, and then Cole went to use the Dynamite ring, but MJF caught him with a low blow, hit him with a Heat Seeker, and picked up the 1-2-3 victory. MJF wins the match, and then afterwards, we had Matt Taven and Mike Bennett come out there after MJF was going to continue the attack. He was going to break Cole's effing leg. Roderick Strong then made his return, and then Kyle O'Reilly also came out. O'Reilly threw MJF back in the ring as MJF tried to escape, and then Adam Cole took out MJF with the Dynamite Diamond ring. All 5 guys hugged, raised their hands. So I guess this is the end of the feud. MJF won the match, but Adam Cole got the last laugh, reunited with all of his buddies, Taven, Bennett, Strong, and O'Reilly. They're all back together again. I guess it's the new Undisputed Kingdom, or whatever they're going to call it. All right, this is fine. Let's move on to something else. Get these guys in new storylines. I'm fine with it. I thought the match was good for what it was, and there was a comment in the chat room, why are people just spamming AEW shows with negativity? I mean, there are pros and cons of AEW. One of their strong points usually are the pay-per-views, and I think this was no exception. Up to this point, really strong show. Next up, we had Konosuke Takeshita defending the international title against Powerhouse Hobbs. I enjoyed the match. I thought it was a good match. My biggest issue was that I just didn't really care about it too much because I thought Hobbs had no chance of winning. But they had a really solid match. The crowd was into it. They were doing the meat chants. It was back and forth. Hobbs hurt his knee, though, at one point. I think, again, going back to earlier with the blood, they should have done the blood in 2 matches. And you had to deal with Adam Cole. MJF was working over the bad ankle because Cole got injured. And now you got Takeshita going after the knee of Hobbs. So, we got 2 matches where they're doing Hobbs, though, of course, able to stay in the fight. However, he kept selling his knee, and it affected him several times. At one point, they were both on the top rope, and Hobbs fell. I think they just slipped, but they played it into the storyline that Hobbs' knee gave out on him. And then Takeshita gave Hobbs a superplex, came off the top of the senton, and Hobbs eventually was able to counter Takeshita, give him the spine buster. However, Takeshita was able to kick out of that, and then they went back and forth some more. The crowd was chanting meat, big men slapping meat. Hobbs wiped out Takeshita with a running lariat, but still could not get the win. And then Hobbs, his knee was so bad, the referee helped him take off his brace, and that's when Takeshita was able to put him in a guillotine submission. Hobbs was trying to break out of it, so Takeshita then hit his move, the Raging Fire, and got the 1-2-3 victory. It was a good match. I just wish they had better build for it, and again, are they really going to do anything significant with Hobbs? They really tried to make him look strong here, but where's he going to be a month from now? 2 months from now? I don't have much confidence that he'll be doing much in the near future. Moving on here, we had Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander for the TBS Championship. Long match. This, I believe, broke the record that Mercedes had already set with Chris Statlander from last month. I think it went like 27 minutes. It was a very long match. It was a good match. Mercedes being strong in the ring has never been a problem. She's always delivered. Crowd really didn't care too much in the early going. They did get into the match towards the end, but they struggled to get the crowd into it. But I thought they had a pretty good match here, although it was very long. They did the whole feeling out process, which is clue number 1. The match is going to go on for a long time. Mercedes worked her over a lot, and it was very back and forth between the two of them. They were brawling on the outside of the ring a little bit, and then Mercedes did the 3 amigos and then kept going. She did like the 6 amigos or 7 amigos, and she got a babyface pop for it. So real good heel you are, Mercedes. I mean, this is the first time she actually got like a lot of cheers, I think, in AEW for doing all the suplexes. And then Statlander made a comeback, hit her with a package pile driver. Then they were on the outside of the ring, and Mercedes gave her the statement maker on the floor, and then Chris Statlander's foot got caught up in the ring frame, and Mercedes jumped off the apron with the Meteora. Chris actually had to take off her boot to get out of that predicament. She was stuck, so she took off her boot and then got back in the ring. She was on the apron. Mercedes gave her a pile driver on the apron, and then Mercedes got back in the ring. Statlander somehow managed to beat the 10 count, and then Mercedes put on an STF. Statlander was able to get to the bottom rope. Statlander made her come back, went for the Saturday Night Fever, but Mercedes put on the ankle lock submission, and then the two of them started trading near falls, near fall after near fall, and finally Mercedes was able to get the win. So Mercedes is still your champion. I'm a little surprised. I thought if they're doing a rematch, maybe Statlander would win the rematch here. Mercedes left the ring, and they gave Statlander the big standing ovation. They let her have her moment. But again, like Hobbs in a way, where does it go from here? Are they actually going to take her to the next level? Where will she be 6 months from now? Will she be at a higher level, or are they just going to have her be another person on the roster? So that remains to be seen. Is Mercedes Moné a face now? Will fans actually cheer? I don't know. That remains to be seen. She did get a good reaction by the end of this, but we'll see what they do next. I mean, she was crying and everything, so maybe this was her way of trying to become a babyface. No interference from Camille. I don't know if we're ever going to see Camille again. So yeah, it was pretty good. Maybe a bit long. Next up, we had Will Ospreay versus Okada in the Continental Classic final match. Ospreay's head was bandaged up, and they were brawling on the outside. The crowd was chanting "Holy shit" right off the get-go. They gave them a standing ovation, and then Okada gave Ospreay a DDT on the floor. The bandages fell off, and the cut was reopened. You had Okada countering Ospreay as Ospreay started to try and build up some momentum. Then Ospreay's leg got hung up in the rope, so it got even worse for him. His leg was hurt, he was bleeding, and then Ospreay somehow managed to give Okada a cutter on the floor, the Oz cutter. Okada barely beat the 10 count, they always do, but he beat it in the usual dramatic fashion. Then Ospreay hit another cutter. Okada, though, stayed in it, continued to go back and forth with these guys. Ospreay was able to avoid the Rainmaker, and then Ospreay hit the Styles Clash, which was how he beat Fletcher in the first match, but of course Okada kicked out of this, and then Okada hit the Rainmaker, Ospreay kicked out, they went back and forth some more. Ospreay hit a Rainmaker of his own, then the Stormbreaker, but Okada kicked out of the Stormbreaker. Then Okada was able to avoid the Tiger Driver, he hit another Rainmaker, could not make the cover right away. Then they countered each other some more, and then Okada hit another Rainmaker, and finally got the 1-2-3 victory. It was a great match. I get why they went with Okada to win. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. I am a little surprised, though, just because Ospreay lost so many times in this tournament and then loses this finale. Where do you go with Ospreay from here? And we'll talk about that more at the end, too. What's next for him? Where does he fit in? I mean, it feels like he's not going to be in this Continental title picture, but what about the world title? There's other stuff going on with that, so I'm not really sure what's next for him. We'll see. Great match, though. Okada wins. They really pushed him as like the best tournament wrestler of all time. Then we had the big celebration. He did shake hands with Ospreay. Christopher Daniels came out there to present the title, but then revealed that he's no longer an EVP. So he wasn't going to present the title. Instead, there was somebody else to do it. And sure enough, that was the return of Kenny Omega, who's been gone for over a year with diverticulitis. Came out there with the title, presented it to Okada. And what's interesting, I wonder if they're going to save this match because they made sure to get the shot of them doing the stare down with the All-In banner in the background. And that's in July. They're going to save that match until July. They even brought up on commentary how Omega's maybe not in ring shape, even though they did at the same time plug his match coming up in Japan next week. Which is funny to me. If he's not in ring shape, why is he wrestling in Japan? But yeah, I would not be surprised if this was done to do the slow build-up. They're going to save this big match for the stadium show coming up in July. We'll see what happens with that. Kenny Omega is back, and obviously they're going to do this match at some point in the new year. Remember, they had Okada taking credit for Omega being gone when Okada came in early 2024. So they have the history, and it's only a matter of time before they wrestle this time in AEW. We then had the main event of the evening, Jon Moxley defending the World Championship against Orange Cassidy, Hangman Adam Page, and Jay White. The challengers had a plan. Take out Jon Moxley, but you had the Death Riders interfering, and since this was no DQ, it's a four-way, they could get away with it. Everyone was brawling in the crowd, and then the security was able to get the Death Riders out of the arena. More on that in a little bit. Then the challengers went back after Moxley. They put him through the table with the Shield powerbomb, taking Jon Moxley out of the equation, or so we were led to believe. Of course, if you've seen enough of these matches, you damn well know he'll be back. The challengers decided, okay, he's done. We're going to go after each other. So that's what they did. We also got a shot of Christian Cage watching the match in the stands, and Hook was there to make sure Christian didn't try any funny business. Of course, Jon Moxley got back in the match. Nobody was surprised by this. Moxley was bleeding from the back of his head, so, if these other guys are bleeding, he's got to bleed too. Then everybody started taking turns doing their big moves. You had Hangman Adam Page pulling the referee out when Orange Cassidy was on the verge of pinning Moxley, and then Page was about to win. Wheeler Yuta showed up, so the security was worthless. They had one job to keep the Death Riders out of there, and they couldn't even do it. Why not just ban them from ringside? You ban people from the Continental Classic matches because you want the matches to have integrity. Well, what about your world title? Doesn't make any sense to me. But anyways, yeah, Wheeler Yuta was back out there. Page hit the buttshot lariat, but he took out the referee, so there was no referee. Then Jay White came in, hit the Blade Runner to Moxley. Yuta broke up the count. He was taken out. Marina Shafir got in the ring. She got taken out with the Blade Runner. And then Moxley was able to hit the Death Rider to White. Claudio then got the referee back in the ring. Referee got the victory. And Jon Moxley retained the title. To the surprise of absolutely nobody. Moxley won the title. Match was a bit of a train wreck. I mean, it was entertaining, but yeah, very predictable. And then after the match, the Death Riders continued their attack. But then FTR showed up. FTR came out to the stage, and they were not alone. We had the return of Adam Copeland. They decided to not hold it off till Wednesday. Adam Copeland is back. We had a huge brawl. FTR hit the Shatter Machine, and then we had Copeland spearing Jon Moxley, and then doing his old bit. He grabbed the piece of the chair, like a pipe, and put the crossface on. Choked out Moxley using the piece of the chair for leverage. Crowd was chanting, "You deserve it," Moxley. And got the big pop from the fans. And Adam Copeland got on the mic, said rated FTR was going to take it all in 2025. And the show went off the air with a happy ending this time. So all in all, it was a nice ending to the show. Adam Copeland going after Moxley. Like I said earlier, where does that leave Ospreay? You got Omega going after Okada, and now Ospreay seems kind of lost in the shuffle. Unless they decide to go with a match with Kyle Fletcher, maybe a rubber match. I could see them doing that. So that's probably what's next for Will Ospreay. All in all, it was a really good show. It was a little bit shorter, which I appreciated. I still would like to maybe even see it a little bit shorter still, and maybe start it at 7 and end it at 11, if not sooner than that. But all in all, really good show. To me, the Continental Classic matches were the strongest matches, and that's what I expected going in. Main event was a little messy, but it was cool to have the returns. The returns definitely brought it up. See, even though Omega's return wasn't a surprise, we all expected that. Copeland, we thought he would show up on Dynamite, so yeah, just a couple days sooner than expected. So all in all, I give it a B+. Really strong show. The women's matches were good, and Powerhouse Hobbs match was good. I just wish I cared a little bit more about the matches, and it did feel like they were struggling to get the crowd into some of the matches, but they all showed up, showed out, and they did get the crowds into the matches in the end. So yeah, very good show. I wouldn't say it was one of the best AEW pay-per-views, but still very much worth the $50. Did not feel ripped off at all. Their streak continues. They continue to deliver on pay-per-view, and we got more to come. We got a lot of shows coming up, and we got some stuff to look forward to in the new year. But I do agree with one of the comments I saw in the chat room. At some point, you got to build some new stars. You can't really rely on Adam Copeland, and even Kenny Omega, you can't really rely on. You need to build your new stars. Ospreay's your new star, and you keep having him lose. So what's going to happen with him? Can they rehab MJF? Is there somebody new on the horizon? That's still the big question. Can AEW build some new stars and actually increase their popularity as a brand in the new year? We can only cross our fingers on that one, and that's all I got for the pay-per-view. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up on the NoDQ YouTube channel. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors. Review the full results from the show, and check out the NoDQ review coming up with the fallout from World's End and maybe some WWE discussion. Actually, I'm sure WWE discussion, so check that out. NoDQ.com to keep you updated. Thank you all again. Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your year. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.